Welcome to the Riding in the Weeds podcast, where we tackle life's inevitable challenges, from navigating mountain bike trails to overcoming business hurdles and forging deeper connections with pets and people. It's easy to find yourself tangled in the weeds, but we're here to help with insights and strategies that'll get you out of the weeds. Our goal is to boost your performance in both sports and everyday life by sharing essential skills that we've learnt along the way. Through tales of our entrepreneurship journey, thrilling biking adventures, and fostering meaningful relationships, your hosts, Natasha, Lockey, and Ginny, Branden, will guide you on a journey that's not only enjoyable, but also inspiring. Join us to gain confidence that you need to navigate the trails of life. Hello and welcome to episode 58 of Riding in the Weeds. I so wanted to say 58 just to make it sound fun. In this episode, we're doing a shorty on using the right tool. This is brought to you by the Broken Muck fork. You will know what that means shortly. What we are talking about today is we can make our lives so much easier by just using the right tool for the job. And how often do you do something and you're trying to make a shortcut and you're trying to do it quicker, and so you just use the thing that's closest and you're like, I'll just make this work. And it ends up taking you longer and it ends up causing you more stress and more grief than if you had just taken that extra step and made sure that you had the right tool. And this literally goes across every avenue of our lives, whether we're talking about biking, whether we're talking about animal communication or just our pet health, whether you're talking about mucking out the horse stool, that had double meanings there as well, or like when you're doing work on the computer. Like, we have so many resources available to us right now, and we're here to tell you that it is worth taking that extra moment, that extra step, slowing down to speed up, taking a breath to balance and say, what is the correct tool? What is the thing that is going to make this be the most efficient thing so that we get the result that we want the first time, and we're not having to redo it, and we're not having to go through stress and create extra weeds for ourselves to get stuck in because we're just not using the right weedy whacker. So stay tuned, because this is for everybody. I don't care who you are. This is going to be a worthwhile quickie for you to listen to. And we're going to get Ginny right on to this. I am Tash. I am a life performance coach, also a mountain bike coach. And this is key. If you want to perform well in your life, you need to use the right tools. Ginny, our expert animal communicator, who will also tell us that if you are not using the right tools to work with your animals and your pets, then your life is going to be so much harder. All right, Ginny, tell us about the Broken Muck fork.
So, yeah, I was actually listening to messages from you and replying to you while I was doing barn chores the other day. Back in September, my muck fork broke. So if you're around horses, you know what this is. There's a specific type of fork. It's a little bit like a pitchfork, but it has tines on it that are fairly close together so that you can pick up the poop and sift out any dirt or shavings or whatever else the horses poop in is bedded in. And I had one that broke in September, so I got a second one. And I was working about a week ago, and I thought the fork felt weird, and I looked down and across the top had snapped. So it was attached still, but it was like, now it's like wiggling, and I knew that if I tried to pick up any significant amount of poop with it, it was going to snap in half. So I went back to the fork with the broken tine. So now I have a fork that has like an extra wide gap in the middle of it, which is very annoying because it doesn't really matter what you do. You're going to pick up poop and part of it's going to fall through the fork, which means you have to go back and pick it up again. So now you're doing double the work. Well, I was trying to get things done, and I was working in the shed where my horses hang out, and there's rubber mats on the floor, and the mats are not smooth, unfortunately, which makes it a little more challenging anyway. So I'm using the broken fork getting like half of a scoop at a time, and it's leaving like poop all over the floor, and I'm having to go back. And I look down, and now there's 2 broken tines on the fork. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is going to take me so much longer. I'm not going to be able to get this done. It's maddening. It's the definition of insanity, is trying to pick up poop with a broken fork. Like, it doesn't work. So I'm leaving you a message, and I'm standing there in frustration just talking to you. And I realize, why am I using the broken fork, number 1, a fork at all, number 2, when I could just grab the shovel, the very large shovel that has no holes in it, and will effectively scoop the poop up off the floor without leaving unscooped poop. So, use the right tool for the job.
So I have a question though, because you said that we need to have like the time so that we can not lose our shaving. So when you use the shovel, were you not scooping up more stuff than just the poop?
So that's a good point for clarification. In my shed, I don't have any shavings. So it's just the mats. It's literally flat floor with just the mats, because they live basically outside. They don't have a stall. That is their shelter. But it's just a flat floor. It's got mats on it, so it's cushioned. They're not standing on hard ground. And it's also there to keep it dry and clean and easy to clean up. I should have been using this shovel on the mats and not the fork, which is like glaringly obvious at this point in hindsight. But when you muck, you grab the fork, right? That's the tool you use for the job. And when you lose tines in the fork, it becomes ineffective, number 1. And number 2, it's still not the best tool on the flat surface of the mats, even if they're a little bumpy because they're not completely smooth. So making sure you're using the right tool is so vital. You can ruin a barn owner's day in 4 words. The muck fork broke. That's enough to make people snap, kind of like the fork at that point, because it just makes life so difficult. A tool that's so easy to use suddenly becomes twice as difficult because now it's not doing the job it's supposed to.
Yeah.
I literally said it right after I realized I should have been using the shovel. We do this everywhere in our lives. Yeah. I was so focused on doing the job, the muck fork is what you use to scoop poop with, that it didn't even occur to me that I should grab the shovel for that area because it would be more effective anyway.
Yeah, and you know, where do we try and cut costs? One of the examples with a bike is there's different size rotors for your brakes. So if you have a 6-inch rotor versus a 7-inch rotor versus an 8-inch rotor, that is going to change the speed that you can stop your bike in. So if you are riding really, really fast and you only have a 6-inch rotor, it means there's less circumference for the brakes. So it's going to heat up faster, which means that you don't get as much stopping power, which is fine if you're not going that fast. But if you're going fast, like now you're super frustrated because you can't go as fast as your husband down a trail. And it's like, okay, you know what? It's not cheap to go and buy a new rotor or get new brakes. But if the brakes that I'm using are taking away from my ability to actually ride my bike the way that I want to be riding my bike, well, I need to go and look at upgrading that equipment. So another example for braking is that you want to be using 1-finger braking versus 2-finger braking if you're using hydraulic brakes, because like in a car, you're not going to use both feet on the brakes to stop, because then you can't feel the stopping power. If you're using 2 fingers on your brakes, you're just mashing those brakes. 3 fingers, you're not even holding on to the handlebars. So you're just going to go flying off when you grab the brakes because you now hit too heavy on the brakes. So if you just use 1 finger, it works better. And our brake levers on our mountain bikes are designed to have a little catch where your finger goes. Now, if you're using 2 fingers, a lot of times those 2 fingers actually don't fit on the new brakes because you're supposed to have your brakes set up on your handlebars so that you can just catch that end. You got a nice effective braking power. I had someone the other day and she was like, well, I 2-finger brake because, and she gave me very logical reasons. And I was like, well, I've got a tool. That's actually not your brakes. That's not you. That's because they're not set up properly. So all we did is we adjusted And then very rightfully so, she was like, well, I've been told that I don't want to have too much edge hanging off the end of my handlebars because I was moving the brakes in so that it would sit where she liked her fingers to be. And I was like, you're absolutely right. So what we do is we adjust the brakes. When you go, this is actually beautiful, you then go into the bike shop and you get them to take off the extra ends of the bars because you're riding, that means that is an indication that you're riding with bars that are too wide. And this isn't just biking. This is in so many areas of our lives. We are given something. It's set up for the generic. It comes out of the factory with factory settings, and we forget that we're not the factory. We're not the robot. We are not the average person. Nobody is the average person. The idea is then that you change it. You then make your bars fit you, whether they need to be shorter. Hopefully they don't need to be longer because you can't add bars on. You move your brakes to fit you because you are different from everybody else. I was told once a really good question for a job interview is asking someone what browser they use on their computer, because it's indicative of the type of person that you are. And no judgment here, please. But if you're still using Explorer, right? Explorer doesn't work for a lot of things because most things are set up for Chrome and what used to be Firefox. It's like if you have not joined the Google wagon, you're going to find that there's a lot of websites that will not work for you. And if you're not optimizing your experience by getting the thing that's going to allow you to do things better, then you're someone who settles for an average experience versus somebody who goes out and finds the right tools, that finds the things that will enable you to do whatever you need to do easier and better. And sometimes Explorer might be absolutely perfect. That is just an example. It's like using Outlook versus Gmail. They're not, one is better than the other, but certain things work for certain people in certain environments better than others. We used to use Zoom to do our podcast, and that was just fine. But we found that Squadcast actually works better because it allows us to do our editing and do the next steps. We could have settled and kept working with what was working, or we can adjust and we can change to suit the experience that we want to have. And again, there's no judgment on what you're doing as long as what you are doing is best for the experience that you want to have. And that's on you to figure out what experience you want to have and then find a way to make it work the best for you.
Yeah. My replacement Muck fork heads just arrived today, so I'm a happy barn person again. I'm using the Muck fork again on the mats, even though, yes, it's not 100% effective because, yeah, some poop falls out, but it's easier because the tool is lighter than the shovel. The shovel is very heavy. The shovel also has a short handle. So it's uncomfortable to use. But in the moment when it's a choice between a broken muck fork and the shovel wins hands down. You know, so now I'm back to using the tool that's more comfortable for my body again, but it's also not broken anymore. So it's effective again, and I don't have to worry about it. I always sweep the mats anyway, so leaving some behind is not a big deal. But when it's a broken fork, it's a real big deal at that point. And that's when taking a pause and going, wait a minute, what tools do I actually have at my disposal that would be better, and or do I need to go get something that would be more useful temporarily while this is broken? Or permanently, is there something that would be better? When I used to clean stalls on a regular basis, I always had 4 tools. I had a broom, I had a shovel, I had the muck fork, and I had a rake. And that was just what you carried through the whole barn. You used all 4 of them to get the job done as quickly and efficiently as possible. And that's the name of the game. Where are you wasting your time struggling with something when there might be a tool that would be far easier to use in that situation that would be far more effective? So
I love it. I think that you summed that up so well. We started with the muck fork. We went into the world of life, came back to the muck fork. And I think the key thing here is that what is the experience you want to have? How can you improve it? So true in every area of our lives is it's easier to stay with what's working sometimes than it is to actually go out and look for something that might work better. But when you do, you can absolutely transform the experience that you're having. So, what is the experience you want to have? What are the tools that could potentially make it better? Sometimes it costs a little bit of money, sometimes it's free. It's always worth asking the questions. So, thanks, Ginny, for bringing this to us today. And I hope you enjoyed this fun little episode that we had. And just to remind you, you are doing awesome. You are doing great. You've got this. And all of these little things that we talk about are really just here to remind you that you're not alone. And you are not the only one who is having these thoughts and experiences. So we'd just like to celebrate you and just say, you're doing great. You got this. We love you. Thank you for joining us. And if you know someone who's always using the wrong tool, share this episode with them. They might just really appreciate the reminder. So I am Natasha Lockey. I am your resident life and mountain bike performance coach. I am here to help you step into the life of your dreams, find the skills, find the tools, find the little tweaks that can make everyday life just a little bit more fun, whether it's in your everyday life, whether it's in your career, whether it's on your mountain bike. You can find me at bettygohard.com. You can find me on Instagram at bettygohard, Natasha Lockey on Facebook and LinkedIn. And how about you, Ginny?
Yeah, I'm Ginny Branden. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. If you are having challenges with your pets, whether that's a relationship issue or emotional behavioral problems, whatever it is, I can help intuitively connect with your pet so that we can get both of you back to harmony together. You can find me on the web at soulpetconnections.com and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube under the same handle. So thanks for joining us today. You can find the podcast at ridingintheweeds.com and on all major podcast platforms, along with Instagram and YouTube under the same name. Please leave us a review, likes, comments, and shares. We would love to have your feedback. So drop us a comment or a note if you'd like to hear a topic from us. We would love to dig in. Thank you again and have a great day.
See you in the next one.